Hi everyone, and welcome to another interview within the GCS Connect Leaders series. Just so you guys know, GCS is a technology recruiter and Connect is our online community we use to attract expert talent and innovative companies and put them together and talk about the sort of things that happen. And Leader series is our way of talking to the leaders in our network, and we've got a great episode for you today. It's Phil and Louis from Accru Finance, which really is a crypto exchange that allows people to earn money off their cryptocurrency, to deal in their cryptocurrency. But I think the key thing is to do it in a really customer centric way, and that's what the guys talk about today. Starting a startup in a very innovative market, making sure that it's customer focused, making sure you've got a great team about you, and making sure you're always thinking about how to provide the best possible service to as many people as possible. We spoke to a lot of people in the blockchain community recently. We know a lot of companies are growing and excelling within this. I think this Accru is one of the key ones. So without further ado, please enjoy the session with Phil and Louis, and hope you enjoy. Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the GCS Connect Leaders series. I'm really excited that we've got Phil Blows and Louis Quaintance with us from Accru Finance. Phil is the founder and CEO of Accru. Louis is the CTO. And they describe Accru as the simplest and safest way to get rewards on your cryptocurrency, and also to buy cryptocurrency, and also to store cryptocurrency. This is something that we've discussed quite a lot in previous podcasts, is real kind of disruption within the finance game and how this is changing. And actually it was quite kind of interesting to me speaking to Phil last week, realizing that I could actually earn interest on my cryptocurrency, which I held not. Unfortunately, I haven't got lots of cryptocurrency in my Revolut account, but he told me there's a way I can actually get the interest of it. So as an individual, my ears perked up. But some of the tech these guys are using and what these guys are doing is really, really interesting. So we were really keen to kind of get them on board. I know they've got a lot of interesting products coming up. So hi, Phil. Hi, Louis. How are you?
Very well, thank you. All
Very
going
well,
good.
thanks. Great, glad to be here.
So obviously I've introduced a little bit, but obviously you guys can do it much better than me. So take us through Accru. I know it's a relatively new company. Tell us a little bit about it and what you're really trying to achieve within your market.
Yeah, I think one of the big things we noticed very early on is there's been this explosion in this concept of DeFi, or decentralized finance. And there are these amazing returns that people can make with different kind of degrees of risk that they take on. But certainly mine and Louis' background has been quite heavily focused in kind of helping people in terms of understanding their finances and things like that. And it's pretty obvious to us that this complex world of decentralized finance, and 99% of people are never going to get to the point where they open up a wallet themselves, they go to an exchange and buy Ethereum to use as gas and fund that, and then connect it with a decentralized exchange. So it's completely impenetrable to your average everyday user. And I think that's a problem that we've really taken on to try and solve, because a lot of people think of crypto as kind of being full of scams and just sort of pump and dump coins and all these sorts of things. But there are some amazing opportunities within that market to really build wealth. And I think that's what we're trying to do. So in terms of what Accru is as a business, we are that simplifying layer that sits on top of all of this complexity that just really gives people an easy route into these great returns, hopefully. So that's sort of a core design principle for the business.
Sure. And Louis, obviously, I know that Phil's the founder. What particularly kind of interested you in coming into the business? Was it more on a technological side, or what the business was trying to do?
Yeah, I think I've kind of dipped my toe in the water previously with investing in Ethereum and being interested in sort of blockchain from a technical point of view. So I was really interested in the chance to become an expert in that, and also I think one of the challenges when you're in this, if you're a techie and you start to go up the food chain, so to speak, is you start to become a bit more managerial, and you can sometimes struggle to stay technical. So the real blessing of kind of joining a startup in a really exciting space was the chance to build something from scratch, and be able to use cutting edge technology, really.
And, you know, coming into this, I guess one of the significant challenges you encounter is you're trying to do something that maybe hasn't been done before. So you have to invent quite a lot, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's elements to this that, you know, you can take the best of what's out there already, because at the end of the day, this is someone looking to put their money to work and get a reward for their money. So there are some very decent, tried and tested kind of user experience journeys that work and have been tested, and we know hook people and keep them interested. So that element of it, the front end user experience, is hopefully relatively tried and tested, and you know we've got some great examples that we can stand on the shoulders of. In terms of the back end, the complexity, I mean that comes back to the experience of the investment management team, and then you know how we run it operationally. That's where we can leverage some really exciting new technology to automate, to really build something that's truly scalable as well. It's a bit of a mixture of both that we get. I think Louis probably has the harder job of creating some stuff from scratch, especially in the back end. In terms of the front end user experience, there's some tried and tested methodologies we can use.
And also, I guess in finance as well, they want to see a sort of interface that they recognize and understand. That's part of the problem of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. If you do it, like you said, in a wallet on a PC or something, it's not what they understand. They're used to a banking mobile app or something, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's got to a stage as well where there are certain giants that we can stand on the shoulders of. So examples would be, you know, one of the key things we need to do with our customers is put them through a sort of compliance check to check their sort of identity, and we've enjoyed integrating with people such as OnFido to do that, and also integrating with companies such as Fireblocks that provide a kind of secure wallet for transactions. Okay. So there's an element of innovation and breaking new ground. There's also an element of because we've got the backing, the funding to do so, we can integrate with these big players in order to simplify and also give our customers confidence about who we are, and also and the compliance experts as well, but also, you know, that we're going to look after their funds.
Yeah, exactly. And how long exactly has Accru been going? It's relatively new, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean we're really new. I mean we really incorporated start of this year, but previous to that we were kind of managing friends and family capital, which we were doing since around October of last year, so informally. But yeah, it's been phenomenal just how much we've managed to get done, and you know, credit to the team that we've got a very, very agile, very, very talented team that's cranking out a lot of, being incredibly productive. So we're, you know, having worked at some large organizations previously, I think what we've achieved in that time would take some organizations almost, you know, years, but we've managed to really roll it out in a very short period of time, which has been incredible.
And one of the things I was quite interested in yourself, Phil, because obviously you come from that kind of financial advisory world, as it were, and you've taken, like you mentioned, we've been quite involved in helping people manage their money, you know, get the most out of their money. And obviously you're very successful in that area, and you're still doing it. But what gave you the real drive to take the step to kind of move into this more kind of entrepreneurial kind of, you know, business related side, as opposed to maybe more consultancy?
I think it comes back to like having your shot. We always say like have your shot at the title, and I think probably being honest, progressively I was becoming a worse and worse employee. I don't think you know, it's for whatever reason. I think, you know, it's probably listening to too many entrepreneurial podcasts and things like that. But just wanting to have a shop was making me pretty unmanageable as an employee. So, I think it was just trying to pick the right time. And I think then there's a realization that there's never a good time. It's sort of like you've always got the mortgage. I've got 2 young children. It's never a good time to take that entrepreneurial jump into business and do this properly. And leaving a very comfortable, easy kind of salary and taking a massive pay cut to start something new is a leap of faith. But I think when you're on the real brink of it, there's nothing more rewarding than creating something out of nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
And bringing an idea to life. I think it's it's worth more than a paycheck to do, because it's just it's exhilarating. It's the
stuff of legends, isn't it, Phil? That's where the legends are built, as it were. So.
You've got to take the risk, and I guess it's almost it's the night. I'm naive enough to think I can do this. I think it's the thing, and it's I love. There's a guy called Kevin Plank who founded Under Armour, and he always talks about being, having that mixture of confidence and naivety that enables you just to swing the bat because you believe you can do it. And I think, I maybe it's a touch of arrogance as well, but I look at a lot of the founders out there who've built phenomenal businesses, and I think, why not us as well?
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's a lot of things that happens with that. It was interesting what you said there about, being an entrepreneur and then not like becoming a difficult employee. I'm sure you weren't obviously a bad employee, but a difficult employee.
Yeah.
Do you think, like with leaders, and this is obviously the subject of the podcast, that a lot of leaders, want to be in charge. They want to be the leader. I think that's an interesting point, isn't it? Almost you become the leader because you want to take that responsibility, and you find it difficult not to take that responsibility.
Yeah. You end up just asking over and over again why. I think you can't accept just being told to do something without kind of understanding the rationale behind it. And it's, if you then go on to achieving it's someone else's sort of dream, it's almost not as rewarding. So it kind of it's having your neck on the line in the biggest way possible gives you the greatest reward. So I think it's wanting that risk, but
Well, I think especially as working in the industry that you're working in, like we talk, going back to innovations and ideas, like this is the right sort of area to do it in, because molds are being broken, aren't they? Like new ideas, it's that exciting element as well, isn't it, that these things can happen, and no one really is that first to market yet, are they? Obviously the platform's there in terms of the blockchain and the types of currency, but no one's really there in terms of being the one-off leader, kind of Google or Apple of this market, are they?
Yeah, I mean it's difficult to sort of work out where you are in the life cycle of crypto, but because as you work in it quite closely, you kind of assume that it's maybe more, the market penetration is bigger than it actually is. When you take a step back and just kind of ask 10 people that do you own crypto, and 8 of them probably say no, and that's probably within its target demographic. I think we're nowhere in terms of the the potential. If it could all fail, obviously, it gets regulated or banned out of existence, but it's hit a point where it's worth $1.5 trillion now as a market, and
it's going from owning it to using it, I guess. It's like this, what you were saying about interest and that sort of thing. It's going from that point, isn't it, where it becomes I know you can, probably some cool coffee shop in Hoxton or whatever, you can use a Bitcoin. It's when you can use it in my local Asda or something like that. That's when it's really rolling, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have been a bit scared of regulation coming into crypto, but I think people need to appreciate that the real assets are held by institutional investors and high net worth individuals. That is where the world's wealth sits. So, and that stuff does not move unless there is, some sort of investor protection, which generally gets brought by regulation. So, although a lot of people have seen some of these moves by regulators as being negative, it's the first step to this being a truly large asset class that is comparable to bonds and equities. So it's going to be super interesting to see how that develops. But yeah, I mean, anything that that puts it within a regulatory kind of framework that then allows it to become as ubiquitous as using an Asda or Sainsbury's and things like that. Yeah, that's where mass adoption comes. And we've taken huge leaps towards that, a lot faster than a lot of industry insiders thought we might. And we've seen in the US that there's a major infrastructure bill that is releasing hundreds of billions worth of really needed funding. The thing holding it up is crypto tax regulation, which these senators thought was just something that was a bit of a niche product. And all of a sudden they're having to really get glued up on it because it's part of a major bill that they've got to sign off.
Yeah. And talking on the tech side, Louis, from your side, backing this up, following, as it were, the changes in the market and how the company is progressing, what are your main priorities to kind of continue to kind of keep pushing that and continue to stay ahead of the market, would you say?
Well, I think first of all, we're really trying to we're looking to release our web app, mobile app, and APIs sort of September, October times. So that's going to be the first kind of target, and then really entering into a period of sort of first 3-6 months trying to ensure that we're scaling the product, support the user numbers. That's kind of going to be key. And one of the areas that we're really interested in is whether or not we want to do stuff with our own coin as a potential offering, and seeing whether we can, I think, begin to automate some of the trading that's going on behind the scenes as well. So I think that's going to free us up to be able to stay lean and stay efficient as a company, not have to hire too many folk. I think, does that fit in, Phil, with your thinking as well?
And that's it, absolutely. And I think one thing that's always amazing is just how the pace of innovation within what is already a very quick market. So we're trying not to make too many long range predictions, but one area that we've got a close eye on is kind of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which 3-6 months ago were really fringe and are now kind of outpacing some of the biggest exchanges in terms of the amount of sort of fees that they're generating for the Ethereum network. So there could be some amazing opportunities within that space. I mean, I'm seeing people buying JPEGs of rocks for 250 grand and stuff like that, which I don't necessarily think that's going to be the way forward. But it's just interesting to see it as a new blockchain use case that's really engaging, because it's coming from these kind of play to earn type games like Axie Infinity, which is one where you're seeing these sort of online games which seem very, very basic on the surface, but people are earning quite a lot of money out of them, especially in some fairly like low income countries around the world. You're seeing these games sort of increase the average salary of the country. I mean, Axie Infinity paid something like 240 million in fees last month. Wow. It's insane. So there's seeing how this is going to innovate in the future, and just making sure that we are on the cutting edge of that, and having the talent at the business that is able to see these opportunities as they appear is kind of our key priority.
So when you start talking about talent, and you obviously spoken about remaining lean and being reactive, I guess, what's the sort of what are the sort of candidates do you think work well within this market that you're really kind of looking out for? You mentioned obviously you've got a great kind of core team. What types of people do you need to add to that to keep building that great team?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we're conscious of, I'm conscious of certainly, is that developers want to work on and a kind of exciting platform that's using relatively recent technology. So that might translate into, developers don't really want to be working on Angular, JS, front end, and a PHP API. They're not the flavor of the month. And so I think therefore we've chosen a platform that's, it's all using cloud technology, using AWS, it's using TypeScript and React Native, the mobile app, and variety of different databases and sort of queuing technology. So and sort of sort of users, developers that want to work on that sort of thing, and I think we're looking for people ultimately that want to have fun. We like to just be honest and frank and have some banter, as we're working. Don't want to be too serious. We're also just looking for people who are looking to stay current in the technologies they're using, and it's a massive bonus as well if they are people who want to build very highly tested code that's robust, scalable, these sorts of things. So I think that's kind of where we're looking. I mean, a variety of gifts and abilities, but I think just their willingness to stay current and want to work on something exciting is and to be fair, the team have been producing things at a very fast rate, and I have worked in places where people are kind of keen to just trickle along, and not really deliver a lot, and sort of. So I think that desire, a hunger to actually get a product to market and see change fast is really what we're after.
And do you think that thinking on the leadership side, Louis, you said you wanted to stay close to technology, stay close to the actual work. Do you think having like yourself that has that drive to want to be close to it, to not like remove yourself, but actually be in the thick of things, do you think that kind of helps the pace of?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, I think we've got some talented and experienced guys, who can know how to do stuff and get stuff done fast, which is a big thing. But I think it's interesting looking at sort of patterns within software engineering and a sort of career path. So what I've seen over the last 2 or 3 years is this kind of divergence between people, they become software engineers, senior software engineers, maybe lead software engineers, and then they either go into kind of software engineering management or they stay technical. But the interesting thing is that, even if you stay technical, you still end up writing less code. And your job really is to kind of be more architectural, visionary, guide the teams on what technologies they should use and how they should do it. But the problem is that within a year or two, your actual coding ability and your sort of touch with the latest things and how to do things you're getting further and further away. So almost, it's a long career, and you've got to be careful that you don't become too far away from the technical stuff, because you may lose your ability to actually be that helpful. Because so it's just a bit of a challenge, I think.
I guess it's difficult, the element you've got of consultancy where Phil, that element, you have to keep your knowledge up to a really high level, don't you, all the time, to be an expert, as it were. And obviously coding is, I guess it's more like kind of sport in some ways, isn't it? You need to kind of keep your arm in and your eye in, as opposed to knowledge, which is kind of easier to accumulate, isn't it?
It is interesting. So the reference to kind of a sports team, because you think about most sort of football coaches tend to be fairly decent footballers in their own right, having sort of been through the mill themselves and kind of understanding. I think, as Louis says, there's a big part of you leading by example and ownership in the business that we have. So I have it on the trading side that I've got to stay, in order to understand sort of emerging sort of trends in risk, got to stay really, really close to exactly what is going on in the market itself. And so I think despite as we grow further, I think I'll always have a book of capital that I manage, because it just keeps me that close and that sharp to the market.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I, for myself, quite like doing these podcasts. Is you get to kind of leadership level within any business, you're not speaking to the clients, you're not speaking to the customers, you're not understanding where people are. And I think that's one of the things I'm kind of getting from this, is that you guys are still very, very invested in what you're doing. You're kind of down in the weeds is the wrong word, but really kind of understanding how the business is plotting forward and making those kind of key strategic decisions yourself, right?
I think the market's just moving too quickly, and I think that, but at the same time, we're setting the business up culturally to be like that. So we've got a very much a workforce that's sort of spread around the UK at the moment, and potentially further afield. But we're really not a prescriptive employer. So holidays are completely flexible. Take as much as you like. Obviously, paying standards that are out there. Same with working patterns. Work when you want, where you want, and we're not going to in any way dictate how you should do. And I think coming back as a business, this is where I think a lot of organizations are scared to do that, because it puts the pressure on the business to dictate or to set the agenda of what needs to be achieved.
Yeah,
and I think having clarity of what needs delivering is often quite tough in big businesses. We know exactly what needs to be delivered in what time frame, and what the roadmap looks like, both from a tech and business development perspective. And then it's just a case of putting the right people in place to be able to achieve that. And how they go about doing it is kind of up to them.
Yeah.
And I think we pretty quickly know if someone's not fit for that kind of environment, and we're very upfront with feedback that we'll give people if they're not performing. So and I think that's why, again, coming back to why we stay so hands-on, is because it allows us to see what really is feasible. It allows us to see what needs to be the next thing on the roadmap clearly, and it kind of allows us to spin the iterative flywheel of the business that much faster, because we are in touch with the end users. We are we're experiencing all the challenges that are out there with the market, with the tech. So it's going to be it allows us just to be that much more reactive.
I noticed you used the word flywheel there, Phil. Was that the Jim Collins flywheel?
I've always thought the Eric Ries flywheel, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I had I was on an online training course with this guy Jim Collins on the Good to Great. So we did 2 4-hour sessions, which were online, massive, great webinar, which you would have thought would be, obviously not incredibly boring, but 2 4-hour sessions of an online training is like most people's idea of hell, right? He was very good, and that was the first time I'd really heard that kind of. Obviously, I've read the books, but the kind of flywheel aspects of it, I think, is very, very interesting. Do you have some key specific tasks that you're setting yourself that you feel are really going to help Accru to really kind of move forward?
I think we've got a very, very easy to measure targets in terms of the assets under management, what the app looks like, user acquisition, the returns that we're making out of kind of base assets, and with a time frame. So, and then we're reviewing those to all of our investors. We're sending out updates monthly, but internally that's the center of our of what we do week to week. And you can break down each one of those into lots of little tasks and what we need to do in order to get there, and which ones are going well and which ones aren't. But it's being just super clear. That's what we're here to achieve. And we know that's what's going to drive the success, the valuation of the business. So there's a phrase that I'm very aware of from the guy from Y Combinator, which is sort of playing house, where you see a lot of startups doing things that are very much window dressing. It kind of makes them look busy. It makes them look like they're doing something, but really it's not having any tangible impact on the bottom line or the longer term objectives of the business. So we've identified what we need, which dials we need to move, and then we just make sure all the resources are aimed at achieving those.
And in a world of you're in a world of innovative technology, are there any particular kind of key innovations that you think are really useful that are helping you to keep up with that pace?
There's an obvious challenge with kind of staying connected when you're apart, and I think we're heavy users of tech in that space, and making sure that we're in close contact. I wouldn't say anything is particularly innovative about Slack and Zoom, but it's we're heavy users of it, and we have a pretty strict, and I don't feel like we lack sort of FaceTime with each other despite not being close.
How long have you guys worked together for? Is it 6 months you've kind of worked together in Accru, or what, slightly longer?
I mean, we actually worked together at a previous company for almost 4 years, I think. Slightly
in different teams.
Yeah.
So it's kind of Phil was more focused on the sales back then, and so we had less contact. But it's been good actually.
So have you been in an office together? Just out of interest, have you guys been in an office together since you've been doing the business together? And you don't have to say where you live, but just out of interest, you obviously got a successful business that's growing. You're about to release a product. Have you ever been in the same room together in the last 6 months?
No,
it's bizarre.
It's strange, isn't it? But yeah, probably spend more time with Louis than I do with the family. So
yeah, that's right.
He's a lucky boy. He's a lucky boy. It's one of the colleagues. One of our colleagues is more local to myself, so we meet up in a coffee shop from time to time and just do a bit of work, just sort of get out of these four walls. But I would say as well, like what's really useful for being a remote company and a startup really is the sort of the kind of AWS managed serverless technology that we use. So, I think, you're obviously trying to keep costs down, and one of the ways is not having to hire a big platform team to, manage the servers or manage deployments and that sort of thing. So one of the benefits I think we've found is, using serverless and such is that it's very simple to deploy things. It's very simple things, they just get upgraded, and we're not really dealing with loads of downtime maintenance. So I think that's a really key thing.
Yeah, it just helps, doesn't it? It gives you that kind of bandwidth without having to kind of make those huge investments of 20 infrastructure people. It's easier to kind of roll out, and that speeds up the pace of innovation, I guess, doesn't it? Because you're able to kind of make those big changes without making that big investment, which is really, really important at this stage as you're in your growth as a business.
Yeah, it's so true. We back when we were a previous company together, we embarked on a kind of journey into kind of microservices and lots of new technology and so on. And there were some decisions that were made along the way about what tech we'd use and how we would build our software and deploy it. And looking back, those technology decisions meant that we had a lot of manual maintenance of it, and making and ensuring that the software was running, the software was getting built, and there was a lot of headaches really with that. And so in a way, a lot of decisions we've made, like using GitHub for our store our software, using that to deploy it as well. It's just so easy to get set up. And so it might seem like a really simple thing. That's a popular choice of technology, but actually at a previous company, we're using self-managed and self-hosted Jenkins. And Jenkins is fine. A lot of tech companies use it, but there's a lot of maintenance there, particularly as you scale and want to be building stuff quite rapidly and regularly. So there were lots of things like that on a repeatable basis. Stuff like we used a technology called Kubernetes, and that was good in some ways, but again, very complicated and complicated to manage. So we stayed well away from that, and as a result, I think we've not got too many ball and chains dragging behind our feet at the moment.
Fantastic. And it keeps that platform simple and able to move forward. And just my kind of last question at the moment, I think both of you are leaders that worked in different types of companies and kind of come together. So what would you both say, in kind of individually, the most important things you've learned in your journey as a leader in the last kind of 6 to 9 months as you've really built this product and this business? Maybe Louis, yourself first, and we'll leave it to Phil to finish off.
Sure. I'm sure his contribution will be much more wise. Yeah, I think well, so it's interesting. It's a tough one. I think probably for me it would be to lead from the front, lead by example as well. So I'm often really interested by kind of military leaders, and back in the sort of Second World War, and one of the things that some of the famous British leaders that were actually most successful and pioneers were those who were actually with the troops on the front line. A lot of the time, they weren't just talking a good game. And I always feel like, if you want something done well, you've got to demonstrate it yourself, and you've got to demonstrate the sort of best practices and so on. So that would be for me, one of the most important things I've learned. How about you, Phil? It's
a really odd one. Like, I always think a bit counterintuitively. I came from finance tends to be quite like a macho environment, and I've led teams previously and sort of earlier in my career, and it was all about. It was quite like it was a macho culture where it was about just hard charging, work hard, play hard, that sort of thing, and it's all nothing but positivity allowed, I think, and to the point where
recruitment, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, don't get me wrong, it's not about being in the dumps, but it's about not being afraid. And this is sort of quite cheesy, but it's about showing a bit of vulnerability.
Okay,
and I think that, because previously I'd sort of just said, it's almost not accepting any kind of, negativity out of my team, and just say, you need to be positive, you need to be pushing forward, and and I would do nothing but be positive. And I think you almost end up with this culture then where no one can actually speak up. You kind of miss things. It's quite a good culture to have in sales, because that's kind of needed, but I think you capture hearts and minds of people more if you show a bit of vulnerability as a leader. And if it's never anything but positive and everything's great and all that kind of stuff, then people sort of, I don't know, they either don't believe you or they think you're a bit disingenuous, that sort of thing. So the vulnerability aspect, just being upfront, honest about the real challenges and giving a balanced view at times, that sort of thing. I think that can add a lot of value.
Yeah, and it's a good lesson to learn, isn't it? Particularly as you're kind of really binding people together at this kind of initial phase. It's not all going to be easy, so there's no point kind of moving away from that, isn't it? So
yeah,
brilliant. Well, that's been a great conversation, guys. Thank you very much for both of your time. I do wish you well with the product launch. I think that we'll probably be going live with this episode around the same time as the product launch. So I'm sure it'll be very, very successful, but I'm sure the next 3 to 4 weeks, as we're recording this mid-August, will be quite a tumultuous time. So I'm sure you've got kind of lots of stuff to do. But thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.